On your next podcast, will you follow a trend and take your fair share? Or do you have an idea that's never or barely been done before? Both have their rewards and their challenges, so which is right for you? Hello and welcome to another podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Our digital world is never static. Almost every single day, we see some new service or some new offering that becomes available to us. Now, most of those, history has proven, will fizzle out and fail. Some will continue with some modest success, and a few will be breakout successes and become the next thing that we either can't live without or can't understand why people waste their time with. And it's no different in podcasting, really. And just like those big entrepreneurs or big companies that launch new things all the time, smart podcasters who are looking to start a new podcast are faced with a similar choice. Are you going to create your own niche, or are you going to steal market share from someone else? I don't think there's really a right or a wrong answer to the question of what you should do. And also, I think to a certain degree, all new podcasts actually have to steal some market share from other podcasts. Remember, 30% of the U.S. population listen to podcasts on a weekly basis, roughly. So, those 30% of the population, those 100 million Americans who listen to podcasts, I think it's like 80 million, was close enough, they only have a certain amount of time. We podcast listeners, as much like we podcast producers, only have a certain amount of time to do things. So, yeah, we have to steal some market share from some people. And I think, and you should understand, that people do rotate through their podcasts. Regular listeners out there, podcasters a lot, but regular listeners too, rotate through the podcasts they listen to. Sure, they have their set standards that they keep and will probably keep forever, but, you know, they dabble in new shows. And these listeners certainly have, or many of these listeners have a type, a preference that they have for the types of shows that they want to hear. And of course, in podcasting, we've seen our share of trends, of big things where people want to move to. Think true crime for a moment. True crime was, and by many indications still is, a huge draw with a large audience. Lots of people listen to true crime content. Very, very hungry for more true crime content. Daily news shows, that's another, by all indications, or by a lot of indications. Daily news shows are a huge draw. And we have a large audience out there who are hungry for more of that type of content on a regular basis. And I think we have lots of existing media outlets who are launching shows in that area because, look, our appetite for news, collectively speaking, doesn't really change. Audio dramas and fiction podcasts, excitingly, I hear, are trending upwards, which is great. Lots of new entrants in there, and lots of big media, lots of big companies who've got chops in other sorts of fiction and storytelling areas like book publishing, television, and film, are all coming in vying for ear holes, I guess. All of those want to take market share away from others because there's a trend working right now. But then we have the pioneers, the true pioneers, you will, doing things that don't quite fit other models or molds. Not that there's not room to innovate within shares by developing existing market share. There certainly is. Right? You can innovate there. But I'm talking about something totally new and different, really, truly carving out your own niche. And when you do that, it means that you're making a show or a podcast that other people don't yet know that they want. Then again, that's an assumption. You don't know whether they want it or not. When you're carving out a niche on your own, there's no trend to ride. There's no all-important search terms you have to optimize for. Because again, no one is looking for this kind of content. It doesn't exist right now. You're blazing your old trail. Now, that may be scary to some, but for others, like myself, that's kind of exciting. I mean, having no expectations of an audience. You're not trying to one-up the competition because there's not really enough competition for the listeners of this niche that you are creating right now get to judge you by. You are totally on your own, which is scary and also incredibly freeing. And we've seen it happen over and over in the podcasting world where new niches are developed. Podcasting hasn't been just one thing from the beginning. It was never that way. Although a lot of people treat it as it is exactly the same. But it's not. Depending on what you're trying to do, going after existing market share, stealing it from other podcasts, or making it on your own, it's quite different. Now both options are valid. Which path you should take really depends upon you. Depends on your ability to solve those challenges. Because stealing market share from very big established players, entering in a space that is well-trodden, that's hard. It's really hard to do. An established audience is often quite unforgiving, especially if you take some ham-fisted approach and enter the market space without studying and understanding what rules exist before you start breaking them. Also, going against a big established marketplace trying to steal it away means you may not have the budget or the resources to really compete at the top. Again, I don't think there's a right way to do this. And your job when you're making this decision isn't to pick the right one. Again, it's pick the right one for you, but then also do not mismatch your actions depending on your chosen path. See, a lot of what works to grow a show in an established marketplace is not going to work as well when there is no existing marketplace to grow. You have to grow your entire marketplace, right? And vice versa. A lot of the advice you hear out there about how to grow a show, how to monetize a show, or anything else to make your podcast bigger may not apply to you if you take one path versus the other. Again, going after an existing audience or an audience that you have to create on your own. So all you can do is choose wisely. Now, if this helped you, just start. And we'll come back to this conversation. This is just the beginning. I want you to think about these two different paths. I will come back and revisit this from time to time. But if this got you thinking about things in the right way, please consider going to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra and lending me your support. That would be lovely. Also, I've made some changes to the homepage of podcastpontifications.com. Take a quick look. At the top of the page, you'll see a Listen Everywhere bar. I'm swapping out the logos of the companies, of the services, of the apps you see in there to reach, to put forth to you some that you may not have heard of before. I figured I'm at a special place since I'm talking to podcasters who already have a preferred podcast listening app or at least a default service, so I'm trying some new things. Big thanks also to Betty from the If You Ask Betty podcast for helping me with some of those graphics. Much appreciation, Betty. Thank you. I'd love your feedback. If you click those links and tell me what happens, if you got something you think I should have up there, by all means, let me know. evo@simpler.media. That's it. I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast Pontifications. Cheers.